Grab a coffee and discover Vegas-level excitement with BetMGM Casino. Now introducing our hottest exclusive, Friends, the one with multi-drop. Your favorite classic television show is being reimagined in your new favorite casino game, featuring iconic images from the show. Spin our new exclusive, because we are not on a break. Play Friends, the one with multi-drop, exclusively at BetMGM Casino. Want even more options? Pull up a seat and check out a wide variety of table games from blackjack to poker. Or head over to the arcade for nostalgic casino thrills. Download the BetMGM Ontario app today. You don't want to miss out. 19 plus to wager. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you have questions or concerns about your gambling or someone close to you, please contact Connex Ontario at 1-866-531-2600 to speak to an advisor free of charge. BetMGM operates pursuant to an operating agreement with iGaming Ontario.
Hello there. Welcome to episode 52 of Bow and Blade, a podcast brought to you by Medievalist.net, your home for all things medieval on the internet. Bow and Blade gives you a seat at the bar as scholars of medieval warfare go beyond the Wikipedia articles to talk about the debates and the questions that we're working on today. I'm Michael Livingston, Distinguished Professor at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina.
And I'm Kelly DeVries. The last week of my being Distinguished Visiting Professor at the Air Force Academy and Professor of History at Loyola University. Yeah, time has flown, Mike. Last year.
Yeah. So yeah, Kelly's getting done with that shtick and moving on to other things. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, this is good. I mean, we're on the border of Scotland and England. We're especially in Scotland, so I think I've got to go with Scots. I don't know whether there's a specific Weardale Scotch, but there's got to be, I'm sure. So I'll go with the local peaty, something really peaty, because
the local peaty. All right, that's fair. Yeah, I'm gonna have.
What about yourself?
Macallan's.
Macallan's, yeah.
Ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, that's right. Well, Macallan's is never broke either. It does not bat. If you have a bad Macallan's, it's still better than any other Scotch you've had.
Oh, so good, so good. So yeah, I'm gonna enjoy. We do not keep doing Scots battles just to have Scotch, but it is a bonus.
No. It's definitely a bonus. It's like, yes, we don't do a lot of Iberian battles except, oh yeah, that's right. The red Iberian Reds are really good. Doing podcasts based on alcohol when the topic isn't actually alcohol related. I think it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? I think it's totally fine.
No, it is. For those of you who are late on this is because Mike and I, in writing a couple of books, both prizes at the Society for Military History. We would edit at bars and restaurants, and it became nice and habitual. I also think that we were spurred on to some great ideas by having these locations, doing our editing at those locations.
Lord knows if any of them were great ideas or not, but we were certainly spurred to things.
Yes,
that's
they seemed great ideas after the third Scotch. I don't know.
They were a super good idea. So and we're having Scots because we're dealing with the Scots tonight, or today, this morning, whenever you're listening to this. We're jumping into we're going to talk about a campaign. There is a battle, quote unquote, involved. But
it's not much of one.
It's not much of one. So this is mainly a campaign, and this was one of our loyal listeners said that we needed to do some campaign stuff. So
yeah, Marvel Sanders said that. And he was absolutely right. Shout out to you. But he says, why haven't you done a campaign? And to be honest, both Mike and I have written on this campaign. I wrote a long time ago on it, and you've written just recently. it is an interesting campaign. It's a nice one to start out. It's not very long. That
Yeah,
should be said. We're not talking about a year or two here. This is not T.S. Lewis going across, or T.S. Um,
Lawrence.
Lawrence going
Yeah.
across the desert with the, to capture the Mesopotamia from the Turks here. This lasts less than 2 months, and
Yeah,
is
this is weeks long, and not a
which
lot happening for much of it.
no, not a lot happening. I mean, and especially if you're on the English, not a lot.
Yeah. Oh
You're not
God.
doing much. You're not taking a lot of initiative if you're Mortimer, the commander of the English. Uh,
So, given the fact we just said like nothing, nothing much happens, why is this even worth talking about?
I think it's worth talking about it in a couple of ways. First of all, this is the first one that Edward III goes on, and as he will become a huge military leader in subsequent years, it's clear that he learns what not to do on this one. This is well, we'll get into, in fact, what spurs this on. But Edward is very young at the time, and so, but it's his first ride into battle, and especially since this is happening just as the at the deposition of his father and Edward taking over the crown. But it doesn't go very well. But I think the other reason is that this is the first real engagement since Bannockburn between the Scots and the English, where the English have decided we're going to take a full army up and we're going to go after the Scots and get some sort of revenge from the Scots. How'd that go for you, English?
Yeah, it was. This is not a winner for the English side. This campaign.
Yeah.
It is a
Spoiler alert, it is one of the worst planned, I think, worst conceived of campaigns.
well, it's an interesting why it ends up the way it does is itself an interesting question.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kelly's exactly right that this is really the first thing Edward III is sort of goes to do. I mean, he is uh, just taken over the throne.
Yeah.
Most people in the kingdom think he's kind of a king in name only. He's a puppet of Isabella and Mortimer. That's true.
Yeah, it is true. I don't think there's any question.
That's true. So he's under the thumb of Elizabeth and Mortimer, the she-wolf and Mortimer. Um, I know that like calling her the she-wolf was supposed to be like bad, but I think of it as badass.
Yeah, I mean, we get
I
a
love it.
couple of these. Yeah, that was probably in the time a very misogynist,
Yeah,
she's overstepped her bounds type thing.
yeah.
But yeah, there's no question that Isabel is badass. I mean, she's the the only one really that comes out of that entire Philip IV children who actually is that much of
She's
a
amazing.
badass. I mean, the
She's
others are
amazing.
all pretty much movie and they die quickly.
Yeah, she's
So
amazing. So yeah, just when I refer to the she-wolf, I'm not like it's not derogatory to me. I'm like,
no, no, no,
yes,
no.
you are so awesome. She's a machine. She's incredible. And she's managed to pull all this off. I mean, it's really quite something.
Yeah, I
Um,
do think the deposition of Edward II is definitely at his wife's at his wife's to say this is not a good marriage. It has been an important marriage for but even the diplomatic reasonings for marriage has fallen apart by this point in time. Isabella is Isabel is her own lady.
and one of those big things that everybody was like, yeah, I think it's probably okay for him not to be the king anymore. That is, say Edward II was, Bannockburn, right? And this sort of,
Yeah, yeah,
the litany of failures, and that one being so huge. So huge.
Well, and then his carrying on with the second of very second openly gay affair with Hugh Dispenser, I think, has not helped give him any credibility.
Yeah, none of his affairs with his favorites were a good thing. Bannockburn, if you wish to hear our thoughts on Bannockburn, that was episode 41. Episode
Yes.
41, everyone. So yeah, that had happened in 1314. It is now 1327. And among those sort of watching all of this happening, are some folks to the north, um, who had won it at Bannockburn, and are thinking, gosh, the England seems to be a mess right now. Um, wonder if we can take advantage of that.
Yeah,
Wonder.
I mean they've been doing raids every year. They've been raiding those the Weardale or the Lanicos monastery is right up there and keeps a very good record of things that are happening. Pretty much every day. Yeah, we had 10 sheep. We've now got two, you
Yeah.
know, and we did have a few cows, and we now have less. The Scotch are going over the border and on cattle raids and other things like this, and pillaging the sites and the peasants and so forth. But they haven't really taken advantage of Bannockburn by making territorial gains. And that I think is interesting as at that. I think that in studying Scotland, that aspect that they do not actually come further to the south and gain lands after Bannockburn is something that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Robert the Bruce the win at Bannockburn absolutely solidifies his position.
Mhm.
And we do get in 1323 the truce that he agrees to with Edward. It's meant to last 13 years. It's going to be a 13-year truce. It does not last that long. But yeah, from that point forward, we're kind of everybody's in their corners. But this event of Edward III coming to the throne, um, Bruce seems to think, well, this is a good way to get back to the negotiating table.
Yeah,
And in fact, rolls over the first raid is mounted on Coronation Day, which is just marvelous timing. Like,
it
well done,
is.
sir. Well done.
How much do
Comes
you
over.
think that? How much do you think that the fact that the Scots have brought in this alliance, this military alliance with France, has given them a bit of confidence?
I mean, it gives them confidence. There's actually no evidence, certainly that I know of, that there was any sort of organization of this. I mean, we know that the
No,
old alliance had been renewed in 1326 with the Treaty of Corbeil,
right.
but there are no communications that we know of where France is saying, "Hey, you know what? Take a shot." Right? There's no coordination that we can tell across this alliance. But yeah, I mean, the Treaty of Corbeil has definitely, yeah, we have an old
Yeah.
alliance. He has that backing if he I suppose if he feels like he really needs it. But this seems to be just himself, right? He knows I got a
Well,
shot to help.
I kind of wonder why that isn't as much, because 1323, 1328 is the Flemish rebellion against the French, and the Flemings are writing to Edward. They're going to write following this Weardale. They're going to write and ask Edward III to become the Count of Flanders. They've got an opening as the Count of Flanders. The then Count of Flanders is sitting in Paris right then as a not wanting to go back up to the north and be anywhere near Flanders because he'd probably be executed by them. But so it is curious that the French have not felt the need to try to bring the Scots into the conflict yet.
Well, I think there's a lot of question on the French side, um, over what's going to be the outcome of all this.
Mm-hmm.
Edward III is on the throne, in part because of Hainaut. right? And their aid in moving Isabel and Mortimer across. And then, we have an arranged marriage that's going to take place. We have a lot of sort of connections there.
Yeah.
That's worrisome. But also she's French and she's basically in charge of the kingdom. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of a lot of uncertainty about how to play things from the French side, and understandably
Really
so.
is. Yeah. Yeah. I think you are. I think you're right there too. Just to put it into context, I mean, this is the period just before and during this campaign. The French monarchy is in real struggle. They've had very short-lived kings, the brothers of Isabel, and weird infidelities of their wives that they have blamed on each other. It's not been a solid time following the death of Philip the Fourth. Isabel must know that. I think that plays into here, but they can't do anything until they pacify the Scots.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's well aware of like the Tour de Nestle affair. I mean, she was like the one who blew the whistle on the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, she knows quite well what's going on. But yeah, this appears to be the Scots acting independently. The Bruce decides, hey, I can breach the border. Yeah, I'm breaking the truce, but what are they going to do about it? And if anything, their weakness gives an opportunity to get us back to the negotiating table. His, ultimate aim is still like, I need to get, confirmation that I am the king, right? And
yes,
that the English are not going to stand against that.
and
So
I think there is a fear that with Edward being deposed, that there may not be any more alliance. So Robert's got to make his move at that point, I think, to solidify his own, as you say, but also to irritate the English,
yeah,
dry him out.
yeah. I mean, I don't think he thinks that anything can really come of this, but he's wrong. I mean, this all works out quite well for him, but he
For
he
him,
is
yes.
he is wrong in that the English are able to respond and do in fact respond. Isabella and Mortimer, uh, in fact, do what this will not be the last time that this happens. We think that the throne is a little bit insecure. Let's gather an army and go try and kill Scots. Like that is the
Yeah.
Henry IV will
Oh,
do the
yes,
exact
Lord.
same thing when he usurps the throne from
Yeah,
Richard. Let's make a campaign to Scotland. Everybody, we're at
that's
war.
true.
Aren't we unified? This is such a
Yeah.
thing.
Military
Um,
legitimacy is very nice.
Very nice. So that's the play here, and they've got a cause to do it, right? They raided, they broke the truce. Let's take it to them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we got to get vengeance for Bannockburn. And in fact, this is really in response to a second big invasion of Scots, a big wide front that has started, and um, and it goes very well for the Scots.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
very well for the Scots. Fighting throughout the Northeast. And Isabel and Mortimer begin gathering armies in York.
Yeah.
Um,
It
and
does surprise me at how well the Scots are doing. Why is the border not better covered?
yeah, we see this time and time again throughout this period, right? That the Scots will kind of roll over the border, and you're like, well, where the heck where's our defenses, right? And everybody kind of falls back to these key, to Berwick and York or what, like sort of roll
Hmm.
back and then have to reestablish, roll back, reestablish. Um, yeah, I don't know, quite as much as I certainly should about, how they
I
were
just don't
making
think, yeah,
these.
I don't think there's the records. That's the problem. I just don't know if we have a motive. And it's traditional. I mean, these raids from the north are almost always traditional. Whether the Bruce had more on his mind, more expansionism, we don't know, but it does. He's never taken advantage of that to make to move the border further to the south, which it strikes a lot as odd in the fact that he has such a great victory in 1314. Now he is ill in 1327, so he does not go on this campaign, but
Right.
it's certainly his direction and his chief lords, the Earl of Mar, the Earl of Moray, and the Earl of Lord of Douglas are all very suitable generals to have in charge.
Yeah, yeah. And the one that we're going to really be dealing with the most is going to be the Black Douglas. This is Sir James Douglas. And yeah, he's a machine. Uh
He
like
is,
oh,
yeah.
some of these guys are just so cool. Yeah, movies never do them justice, I don't think.
No, no, no.
Yeah, and yeah, this is so Robert the Bruce had sort of instigated all this, but yeah, he's ill. So he's not he's staying at home. Now he'll show up right at the end of all this, but he's not the main,
No, but
guy
he's
on the
not, yeah.
field. Not in tactical command here. Um, so yeah, the Isabella Mortimer and Edward, young Edward, start gathering an army in York. And it's a big army they gather.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. Yeah.
a big army. And we are really fortunate, I think, that it's not just English who are gathering in York. There's also a contingent of men from Hainaut.
Yeah.
Um, and among them is a young buck named Jean Lebel, who will later be able to write about this stuff. And it's so cool because he's there. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
And he is a great chronicler. I mean,
Nice.
unsurpassed, I think, in this period.
So
Uh,
good.
and I'm curious because I'm not so sure he's a soldier. He may just be a chaplain because he is a cleric in Liège, which is next door to Hainaut. But I think he's got a curiosity that many writers would have at this time. Well, let's go do it. And so yes, unlike his often compared to Jean Froissart, but unlike that, Froissart never goes on campaign, never does hang around with the army to see what it's like. But it gives us a great record.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. I love that we got Lebel. And he gives us some just awesome passages when he's talking about this whole thing, that are terrific. He is absolutely befuddled by the Scots. Like he's like, what on earth is going on with these guys? He's really flabbergasted by him. So yeah, we'll probably end up reading a couple of bits of the Scots in Jean Lebel's eyes, in the eyes of this man from amid the high noters, trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah, because the Scots, as we said, are doing so good. Yeah, Jean Lebel says the Scots were exceedingly bold and fearsome fighters who could cover 20 or 30 leagues at a stretch by day or night. And he said, in particular, the thing that made them so formidable was their mobility.
Yeah, yeah,
Their mobility. He says, when they invade, they're all mounted except for the rabble who follow them on foot. And because of the mountainous terrain in those parts, they have no baggage train and carry no supplies of bread or wine. When they go to war, their custom is such, and their abstinence is so great, that they make do for long periods with half raw meat and no bread, and plain river water, no wine. And they don't bother with pots or pans. They cook their meat in leather, even in a beast's own new flayed hide. Um, I
yeah.
do, I do.
He seems to be describing almost the Mongols in this way. They just
Yeah,
stick some meat underneath their saddle and
I
it gets roasted.
I love his little asides. He's like, they got meat and no bread, and they drink river water and no wine.
Why?
I'm with you. I'm with you, Jean Lebel, man. No bread or
Yeah.
wine. What are you doing?
What are you
Um,
doing? Yes, exactly. And I don't know that anybody has ever questioned John Bell on this observation about the Scottish mobility because they will be as mobile. Roger Mortimer tries, he knows that this is what, if he's going to go on this campaign, he has to be as mobile as they are. And it does not work out very well for them.
It
They're
does not.
not the riders. I mean, the Scots seem to be horsed entirely, and they're very light, and they know the terrain, and Roger's none of that.
Yeah, I mean, I love this campaign. One of my shticks is follow the roads, that we always have to be following the roads. And the roads do matter for the Weardale campaign, but also it matters that the Scots are not necessarily following the
Yeah.
roads. The English appear to be trying to follow the roads, and the Scots are like, no, man, we're going to cut across country, which enables them to have this very efficient, fast movement that is rolling up the landscape. And it actually takes, in part because they're moving off road and at some speed, it takes the English quite some time to even track down where they are. You would think, just common sense or whatever, you think, oh, it's easy to know where their invading army is. In this case, actually, it was not. It took them quite some time. I think mid-July, the English army with these high notor allies, but we'll probably just say the English. They set out to confront York, or set out from York to find them. They were in County Durban mid-July. It took them like a further 2 weeks, almost at the end of the month, to finally locate where the heck they were, where they were encamped.
It's not like the English don't have scouts. They've got scouts out there. We read about this. I mean, Jean Lebel talks about the scouts. Everybody, all the English sources talk about this. They've sent scouts out there, and the Scots are faster than the scouts. They are outrunning the scouts. And at that point, if you've got scouts that are slower than the people they're pursuing, they're not really scouts at that point. They're just outliers.
Yeah. It's kind of a remark that he doesn't have, that he fails to keep tabs on the Scots. It is definitely kind of a failure of reconnaissance, as we would say today. And an operational failure. It's one of a couple operational failures the English have here. Another is the logistics involved. Their ability to maintain supply lines. As Jean Lebel just said, the Scots don't have them. Like, they just don't. They just go. But the English need a supply line, and their ability to maintain that supply line becomes more and more difficult the further stretched they get. And that's another failure. In fact, I wanted to ask you. We have never talked about this. Ian Mortimer, today's writer, Ian Mortimer.
Yeah, today's writer, the descendant, writer. He says, of Roger.
Yeah. Ian Mortimer claims in his book about Roger Mortimer. He says that the logistics failures, the organizational failures on the English side, were so systemic that Mortimer was only making a show of all of this, and that he actually had a previous deal that he had made with the Scots while he was in French exile. And that this was all kind of some ruse and sham, and that's why the organizational failures are so paramount, so everywhere.
Yeah, it sounds like he's trying to recover a bit of his ancestors' bad reputation. Mortimer doesn't have a great reputation anyway, because he's been having this adulterous affair with Isabella. No matter what Edward II and who Edward II is playing around with. Roger and Isabella seem to have quite a long-term relationship, and that even in Ian's book, I know they don't. He doesn't build that up in the way that I think is as salacious as it might be, because technically it's treason.
Yeah,
to have this is, if you're going after the wife of the king and you're having an affair with the wife of the king. He could actually have turned on Mortimer and had brought him up for treason, Edward II. And then he tries to kind of be this mentor for Edward III, and he's not. I think that he and Mortimer wants him to have a little bit better reputation. He's a bad general. He's a bad lover. He's a bad stepfather. I mean, he's go however you want to do it.
Yeah.
And in this case, I don't see how you can escape it from Mortimer. First of all, I don't see any evidence, or I've never seen any evidence of Mortimer having a relationship with the French, that somehow he's now going to be like a basketball player who goes out and doesn't make half his points because he's got money on the game.
Right. He's gonna throw the game here. Yeah.
That appears to be, I know that I once say to Ian Mortimer, I said, you do realize that this means that he is worse than with his reputation, that he's in fact very treasonous in this situation.
And it's one of these things where I'm like, you're making a complicated conspiracy when good old fashioned, like, they suck at it is best. Yeah. Like,
and that's I mean, from my reading of this way back when I started, because I did this for part of my dissertation, looking at the Weardale Campaign, and I've just always thought that everything the English did started going wrong as they planned it. This whole notion that they were going to somehow try to keep up with the Scots was just a wrong notion. They're just completely idiotic. I know. I mean, even and Cliff Rogers and others don't want to accept this because they don't want to see that. Although they will. This isn't Edward III necessarily. Like I say, he learns from the bad points of this. But Mortimer's decision that he is going to chase the Scots and bring them to battle in this way is really wrongly conceived.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the other aspect of this, I think, is that one of the things that Isabel and Mortimer have done in taking kind of over the administration is gotten rid of a lot of probably very competent administrators.
You think you're right. Yeah.
And so, one of the things, there's this old adage, right, that sergeants, not generals, run the army, which is basically true. But behind there is, like, it's the accountants, it's the procurement officials, it's the transportation specialists, it's like the logistic corps. And those are the very kind of people that they have probably gone through and really, put the scare into, if not run off, in making their changeover. And so, yeah, they don't even have the capability to be pulling this kind of thing off.
No, you're absolutely right.
I think you and I are in total agreement that Mortimer's conspiracy of no.
Well, if you figure your conspiracy leading ultimately to the abdication or the forced abdication of Edward II, so you've got all the administrators who may have benefited from Edward II, who like Edward II, so they're mad at you, and then once you've thrown him out, all the administrators who may have been mad at Edward II are now a little bit suspicious about you. So there's not a lot of people who Mortimer's going to come in and say, jump high, and they're going to say how high, and many of them are going to be saying, I think it's a lovely summer out in the Cotswolds this summer.
Yeah. I'm with you here. I'm with you.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they do why Mortimer hires these Hainaulter mercenaries. 780 we've got. So I think that his army is a little bit uncertain. So bring in some mercenaries that are a little more experienced and have them as a solid point that the army can see. Is there.
Yeah, these guys know what they're doing. So they do finally find the Scots, and they find that the Scots are encamped near the village of Stanhope. If you were looking at it on a map today. So this is
it's just a village, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little
River Wear.
Yep, right next to the River Wear. So this is southwest of Newcastle on Tyne. So yeah, they find them at Stanhope. as Kelly said, next to the River Wear. And the English are on the other side of the river. And we now get this one of these painful things where the Jean Lebel tells us, he says the English sent messengers to the Scots requesting free passage over the river and free movement on the other side in order to form up ranks for a battle. Or we'll give you Scots a chance to do the same thing. One way or another, let's fight on a pitched battle on even ground. And the Scots just like laughed it off. They're like, no, man, you want to come get us, cross the river, come up the hill and get us. He says, the Scots said, it should be plain to the king and his lords that we are in his kingdom and have burnt and ravaged it. And if he doesn't like that, he can come and sort it out. We'll be here as long as we want to be. Sorry, that's my translation of Jean Lebel.
I think it's a great translation. I mean, that's the only reason I think the Scots have stopped. They're at the mocking point. It's kind of like you can imagine that the Black Douglas and his earls are sitting there and they say, "Okay, we've gone so far. Everybody's a little tired. Let's just stop here. And by the way, we will stop on the other side of the river. And when the English come, we'll mock them like Monty Python, like Monty Python players."
It's a hoot. It's a hoot. And there's question about who is on what side of the river at this point. I very much think that the Scots are on the north side of the river.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I believe that is not what like Battlefield Trust. Battlefield Trust has them on the south side of the river. I can't get my head around that whatsoever. That to me is
no.
Just
that would mean that the English should cross somewhere, and we don't get that in Lebel.
And it means that they will need to both cross the river in order to get to the next encampment.
So I mean, one of them has to. It makes the whole scene with the English and the Scots that John Lebel is talking about to just say, well, you cross the river and we'll fight. No, we're not going to cross the river and fight, but they've got to cross the river to go home. So I think you're right. I think Battlefield Trust, and I'm not entirely certain what their evidence is for that, whether they're basing that on any archaeology, which I doubt.
I don't think they are. I don't think they are at all. And also, I think the way the road runs, the English are following the road. They're going to be on the south side. So it's, I don't know what they're thinking. So at any rate, we do know they're on opposite sides of the river. But then we know that after a bit of this, the Scots move their encampment. And we're pretty darn sure exactly where they moved to, because we know where the Bishop's Park was, which is what they move into. So if you, again, following on maps or whatever, there's little hamlets, Eastgate and Westgate. Well, those are the gates of the park. So in between there, that's where the Scots are, which is on the north side of the river. So this would make sense. It would be really weird if they had crossed the river to take position on the same side of the river as the English, and the English responded to that by crossing over, take position on the opposite of the river. None of that would make sense. So the Scots just move upstream essentially into in fact a better position. So it's almost like we got an even better spot.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad heard only in Canada. Reach great Canadian listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Libsyn Ads. Email bob@libsyn.com to learn more. That's bob@libsyn.com.
Because a park is not like, Central Park or what we might think of a park today. It's more just a reserved for rich people to go shoot deer. It's forested, and it's has heights, rocky heights, and other things like this. Nice place to go do a little hunting, but that not at this point.
Well, I mean, the Scots probably were like, "Hey, good food.
Exactly.
We'll do the hunting. It'll be great." So it's about a 2.5 mile move that they make from this first encampment where they're as Kelly said, Monty Python, sort of taunting. Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries. And now they move up to Stanhope Park. The English, when they become aware of this, they do this at night, which is it's impressive. That's impressive moving a camp at night. Like,
It is
well done.
impressive, yeah.
So okay. So then it's like, oh, bummer. So we got to move up that way. So they march up to get into position themselves once more. Now at this point, their supply lines are that much longer. So that's bad. You know, we've added 2.5, 3 miles to our already stretched supply lines, which of course are stretched down this valley that could easily be hit by anybody if they wanted to. So that's not good.
Although, and this is one of the things I haven't understood in studying this, there are historians who look at and they say the Scots that are getting hungry, not the English getting hungry, because the English have the supply lines coming through and so forth and so on. But I don't read in any of this where the Scots are getting hungry, because they seem to be able to eat off the land quite easily, and they seem to be able to eat less and still sustain because they are probably mounted so much.
Yeah, I mean, the Scots seem to be just fine. Whereas Jean Lebel is talking about how upsetting is there's price gouging going on the few supplies that come in from Newcastle, that like everything costs an arm and a leg, and he's furious about it. Like it's I don't know where that would be coming from. It's all evidence to the contrary. The Scots seem to be doing just fine.
Yeah, just fine. Yeah, and and if there was an English hope of starving them out, that hope is long gone.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And the king is witnessing all this, right? The king is watching all this, and then we get what is often called the Battle of Stanhope Park.
Yeah. It stretches the definition of battle.
It does.
We'll just say that.
Uh,
These are not the big battles we're talking about. This is not Bouvines or Courtrai or Crécy or Agincourt. This is a really, it stretches. I would say it's a run into each other first.
It's an amazing maneuver, essentially. On the night of August 3rd, or early in the morning on August 4th, depending on where we are, other side of midnight, which we don't have sources enough to know like exactly. But that night, a group of Scots, Douglas sends out a contingent who cross the river. It's only a few hundred men. They cross the river.
Not many at all.
No, not many. Cross the river, are not picked up by, there's no English pickets pick them up.
Nothing.
You're like, how do you, oh God, Mortimer, you idiot. So complete failure of the most basic, like set out pickets. Here comes a few hundred guys. They cross the river, which is a wet gap crossing, tough to do already. At night, okay, unnoticed, wow. And then roll into the English camp. And again, according to our sources, and Jean Lebel, he's there.
Yeah, he's there. He gets rousted like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh my God, panic. At least 300 English are killed. And that the ropes holding up the king's pavilion are cut. Like that. Yes. And if you know how a medieval encampment functions, like that's the literal center of the encampment. So the Scots had gotten all the way to the literal center, and had cut the ropes of the pavilion, dropping the tent on this poor sleeping kid.
I mean, and that tells you how successful this was, that nobody had roused, no noise or anything had roused Edward III from his sleeping. And so the pavilion gets dropped on his head, because the guy ropes are cut.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Whether obviously we don't know, but you gotta think they were coming for the kid. Like, they had to think if we jump in and get the kid and take him off, like we win.
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by that. I'm not sure because I think if you get close enough to cut the guy ropes, you should have been able to get in the tent and get the kid and bring him out. It may be that they recognize that if they have the Edward III, that creates a huge problem that doesn't get solved easily. And so just scare them will do the same thing.
Well, maybe, but man, like if you can get the king, you get the king.
Yeah. Whatever they do, they humiliate him.
You
I'm
grab the
sure
kid
that
and take him out.
Edward, as soon as he cuts himself out, goes to his list, adding not to do. Do
Yeah.
not,
Goodness
do not.
gracious. Douglas loses hardly anybody. Like hardly anybody. They
Oh
go
yeah,
in, they make
yeah.
this, and then they bolt out. Absolutely bolt
Crossover
out.
again. Yeah.
Crossover again. The English can do nothing about it except like, oh,
No.
try and put the tent back up. Um,
It is one of these little attacks. And I mean, we don't even really have a category in military history to describe these. It's not a battle. It's not really, it's a raid, but it's
it's
a
a raid,
raid in
yeah.
a way that they're not grabbing things like we think about it in a raid. It's more just we're going to come in and mock you guys terribly by showing how inefficient you are.
Yeah. I just when because I was reconstructing all this for the book I'm working on right now. Um, and I must have sat there just staring at the page for like 3 or 4 minutes. Like they got how many men across and nobody
Yeah,
noticed? Like,
nobody noticed.
what? Are you kidding? Utter failure. Utter failure. And then worse, just a few days after this Battle of Stanhope Park, again, quote unquote battle. It's called the Battle of Stanhope Park, but you're like, this is not a battle.
No,
This strategic terrorist strike. I don't know what you want to call it.
yeah, guerrilla war.
Yeah, yeah. The Scots depart. They take off in the middle of the night, just up sticks and leave. Which the English also don't notice until it's all said and done. And they withdraw. According to the description, they withdraw across a bog that the English did not think could be crossed, and thereby, the English didn't even think that this was something they had to watch, and instead the Scots just went across it. Hard to tell exactly where that is on the landscape, like today, because all drainage and stuff like that. But what it looks to me like is they basically just bolt north. The Scots are like, yeah, we're just gonna cut north.
They'll go north of the border, knowing that the English really can't follow.
Yeah, they just go cross country, just head out. And they, having done all this, the sources are very clear. Douglas returned home to Scotland with little loss of men and a great gain in plunder. They able to take all their stuff home, and the English are left like holding the bag, got nothing, accomplished nothing. Just hiring the High Noters for this cost, I believe, more than the Crown's typical annual income.
Yeah, it costs £41,000, and the English Crown's total income each year was £30,000. The estimation is that there's £70,000 for the whole campaign that brings them nothing. That is really just flushing money down the drain. Now, Edward III, when he gets older, I think this is one of the reasons why he doesn't hire mercenaries and he doesn't pay banks that give him loans and so forth, is because he's seen this really sets the whole post abdication formation of England for a long time. And in fact, it doesn't really respond again until 32, 33, when they again go try to fight the Scots. And Howland and Hill are much more successful in this than the Weardale campaign is.
Yeah, and this is just an absolute, just terrible. I mean, it's just terrible all the way across. How badly they did here, and it's hard not to draw a line between this and the death of Edward II. Like the next month, Edward II is killed, and
or dissolves, disappears.
Yeah, he's gone. Something happened. Almost assuredly, right? It's like, well, we're looking so weak that there's a chance people could want him back. So we got to take care of that, end that for sure. And they do. And Edward II is gone. So yeah, lessons. What lessons does Edward? I mean, the Scots lesson is like, we can just keep going. This is great. What lessons does Edward learn from this?
He learns, well, whatever lessons are, none of them are good. They're all lessons learned from loss, And I think that he recognizes that you don't try to chase the Scots. You don't try to chase a lighter troop. You've got to establish your own force and become such a pain that they have to fight you, which is what will happen in Howland and Hill. So he does immediately turn it around against the Scots in 33, where he stands there and starts doing things to the Scottish contingent at Berwick that forced the Scots to come to battle. And so I think that he learns that. He learned and he takes this further. The campaign he runs in 1339 in Cambrai is much more efficient, and I think that's probably it. He learns how to be efficient as a campaigner, and it can be seen, I think, in almost all of his early campaigns.
Yeah, I think you're right. You sort of take the high ground, take the the superior position, protect your frontage. The Scots had done it with the river. He will himself do that in various ways in different with different terrain, but always use that. Maintaining the superb command and control, right? That the Scots clearly have fantastic command and control. Mortimer's got nothing like that. But especially like what it would take to do that, a nighttime shift of a full encampment. That's like some serious command and control. And he's basically seen it twice. The Scots do it twice in this campaign. And that's the sort of thing that's going to stick with you. Maybe he learned, some more about the power of the longbow. According to Jean Lebel, the English tried to cross the river at one point and are repulsed by longbow, by ambushed longbow. So that could be something. Reconnaissance, right? You got to know where your enemy is, keep tabs on them, in order to be aware of that.
And don't outrun your supply wagons. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can learn from this campaign. And that's why it's so important. I mean, both you and I talked about it when we were urged to talk about a campaign. We both went to Weardale as the first one to talk about, because it is such a miscue on the part of the English.
Yeah, such a miscue. Such a miscue. And it is it does affect the 100 Years' War, with France, and that almost as soon as this has kind of all happened, Edward's making peace with Charles IV.
He's not going to advance. He recognizes he's got to be patient, which obviously had not happened in the Weardale campaign.
Yeah, and Isabel, no doubt is sort of guiding his hand, in saying, you've got to make peace with France. He agrees to perform homage for Gascony, agrees to pay money to the French, even to cede some territory. A lot of people think Isabella basically ran the whole thing there. But certainly he would have known, like I'm in no position to be going
No.
out and fighting.
And
Whereas,
even so much as he knows that to be patient, to hold back, even when Charles IV dies, and that leaves him as the closest heir to the throne. And Isabella seems to be encouraging him to take advantage of it at that point, which would have been 1328, and he doesn't. He waits until for another decade till he's got the Scottish situation solidified. So I think this is a very, very important for economics, for political history, and all sorts.
yeah. As we usually do, what do you wish that we knew about the Weardale campaign that we don't know?
Well, I mean, we don't have a strong Scottish voice in this, and it would be nice to know. I would also like to know when I started out, I read somewhere, and I can't find it since, that when the English were chasing the Scots, that they recognized that the Scots seemed to be able to eat and run at the same time. So Mortimer comes up with the idea that they'll bake the bread and stick it, and they'll bake the bread early and carry the bread with them. Except that they all then put that on the horse, not recognizing the horse's sweat and bread, and the bread became
Absorbs it.
inedible. I would like to find out if I was just dreaming that as a young scholar, and if there is some chronicle that I've missed. It seems to me it was John Troclo, but I couldn't find it when I looked just recently. So
Yeah.
I do wish Scottish voice. I think would be nice. What were were the Scots doing this as we interpret they were doing it?
Well, I mean, we have Barber's Bruce talks about this,
Yeah.
but it's written in 1375, so it's a little bit later. Um, eh, though it for instance, how much do you trust Barber's Bruce, right? It's poetic.
Yeah.
Is that getting in the way? There are some questions about that.
It says that Bruce has gunpowder weapon,
Um,
which he
and
doesn't.
and yeah, so we do have that voice. It would be nice to have a clearer sense that we don't necessarily get through Barber's Bruce,
No, yeah, you're right.
of the
Incredible Scottish voice, then, is what I would request.
well, it'd be nice to have that sort of inside the mind of Douglas, right? What is he really
Mhm.
going at here? And I would like to know, like, where exactly did they make that crossing? That night crossing for the quote unquote
Yeah,
battle. Where'd they make that crossing? Right? Like it has to be upstream. I assume it's upstream.
I am simple.
From
Yeah,
the new encampment, which was upstream from the old encampment. But maybe it wasn't. Like maybe did they double back and that's the reason there's no, like, and so they went up the road. I don't know. I wish I knew where that crossing was, and we
yeah.
simply don't have the information for it.
No,
Um,
John LaBelle doesn't know because he doesn't witness it. He's asleep in the
yeah,
tent. So, but I'm with you. And unfortunately, the terrain has changed. The direction of the weir has changed, and there's some other things that would make it almost impossible to ever know that.
yeah. It's kind of like wanting to know where, where exactly was the Blanche tack. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it's plus or minus 100 yards from this point, but I'd sure like to know where. Like so yeah. So the Weardale campaign, yeah, this is a fun one. This is a fun
It
one.
is fun. It is less fun if you're English.
Yeah. Not so much fun if you're in English. So there's 300 guys that get killed that night in that great battle. Oh man,
Yeah.
something to see when you're a kid. Oh, this is what war is. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
we sit around and then we got our butts kicked. Oh, okay. Um, so yeah, a terrible campaign for the English. Great one for the Scots. Huzzah, they're feeling great. And yeah, it has some major effects. So I hope everybody enjoyed listening to this. I hope you all enjoyed this. This is episode 52. I say it, fairly often because look, it's going to be around the corner. We're going to have our next Q&A. So there's more that you would like to know about campaign structures and such.
Yeah.
Let us know. Let us know. We can talk about it in the Q&A.
We'll definitely do more campaigns. These are interesting.
Yeah.
Be nice to do Frederick Barbarossa's campaign to on the Third Crusade, which doesn't quite make its result. Is a king that can't swim.
Can't swim. Yeah. The failed crossing there.
But there are plenty of
hilarious.
others.
Yeah, no, we've got some ideas. If you have some civic ones you want us to talk about, let us know. But in the meantime, they are locking the doors. So please do join us next time when we'll be doing the Battle of Ankara in 1402. We're going to go to an entirely different part of the world.
Entirely different, and two Eastern opponents. I mean, we're not going to have a technically a European in this. Bayezid against the Tamerlane, against the man who may be the most ruthless person ever graced the earth.
Timur was not timid. He was
not timid.
We'll be doing the Battle of Ankara. So I hope y'all will join us. As ever, a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by medievalist.net. So the best way to support us, other than buying our individual books, of course, is to join their Patreon at patreon.com/medievalists. And that's also the absolute best place to drop us a line if you have a question for our Q&As. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.